Good morning, it's Brian. It is the Art of Startup War. You are back here again, as in every single week, we will take a company that we have made an investment into. We believe this company is sensational. Why? Because we put our money into them, because we believe it's going to provide a phenomenal financial return. Now, in this particular case, we believe it's really important to the planet as well, because it's important to happiness. What is more important for all 7+ billion of us on this planet? We don't want or need much. We just want to be happy. And if we're happy, all of the rest of the stuff just comes along. The Hobby Tribe specifically deal with that. They deal with like a smack on the nose to make you realize that they exist. And we saw it. We saw the founder. We saw what they were building. We saw a world that needed it. And we made the investment in it. 30 seconds. So I want to bring in Josh, and he's going to tell you a little bit about the Hobby Tribe and what it's all about. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Brian, thank you so much for that introduction, man. It's so amazing to be here. Yeah, I mean, like you just said, happiness is what the world needs right now, especially after the pandemic, with all of the things happening. The one thing that a lot of people said that motivated them during this troubled time is happiness. The joy of life and the joy of knowing the surrounding and their friends and family, the things that made them who they are was happiness. And which is why, I wanted to take you through the journey of why hobbies. I mean, everybody, part and parcel of their day, they've always heard of hobbies, but it was nothing so phenomenal that people were like, oh, you know what, hobbies are really important. But I'll tell you how that came up to being. So, I was always a huge hobby enthusiast. I play multiple instruments. I sing, I dance, I act. I do a lot of these things. And ever since I was in school, my school was a lot into extracurricular activities, which is where I feel, all of this, kind of started. And all of my friends, as we kept growing older and, got into work and to college, they said one thing, Josh, remember the times in school when we were kids, how much we enjoyed just being ourselves, just enjoying singing without and dancing without anyone judging us. I really want that time back. And I was like, but you still can do it. What is actually stopping you from doing it? It's like, no, there's like too much work now. There's too many responsibilities. I don't really have time for it. And I was like, okay. And it reached a point where in college, my dad also is a businessman himself, but he never gave me pocket money. Right. And as a teenager, when your friends are going out, and having fun and stuff, you need money to do everything. Right. My dad never gave me money. Everything he gave me was just $10. Right. And with the $10, he's like, okay, I'm giving you this $10, but I want every single nook and cranny of where you spent it, everything to the dime. I want that. And I used to be like, Dad, my friends' dads give them what, $50, $100 to spend in a week. You're giving me $10 and you want accounts for that $10. I didn't understand the value of it then. But now once investors invested the money in it, now I really understand how and why that helped, back then. Anyway, so, it kind of itched me to start trying to make my own money. And I started realizing what was I good at back in the day. I never started this company as, something I really wanted to do. I wanted to do something, for myself, small first. So in church, when I used to play the guitar, a lot of the friends and family used to come and say, hey, can you teach me the guitar? I was like, fine, definitely. So I started teaching the guitar. And I started making money, and I realized, oh, I like the taste of money now. And these small things happened, so I was like, how can I make more? And then I realized, oh, I can sing, I can play the keyboard and the guitar. Why not teach all three of them? So I started doing that. And but I was studying biomedical engineering as well. So I couldn't balance the both of them, doing this and that. So then I got an idea. I told my friends, because all of my friends, all of them are musicians or dancers or actors. I told them, hey, I realized while taking my classes, the three main reasons people don't pursue their hobbies is time, travel, and treasure. I call it the three T's. And, in my own way, because I have a very curious mind, I used to always ask my students, if I increase the price a little bit by $2, how would it be? Oh, no, it's too expensive for me. I can't do it. I was like, huh. Okay, listen, I'm not free today at 5 p.m. Can we do the class at 7 p.m.? Oh, no, 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 I'm too busy. Then I have too much work. So that is when I started, I didn't know I was testing the market, as they say it now. It was
Yeah.
just intuition. I was just asking questions. And slowly but steadily, I started getting a pattern, which is where I came to these the three main problems. I told my friends this, I'm good at selling. I'm good at convincing people to join. You go and teach. I'll just take a commission out of it. I'll get the students for you, because the teachers weren't good at getting students. They were good at teaching. So I told them, I will go and get the students for you. You just teach. I will rent out everything for you. So what I did was, for the money I used to make with my guitar and keyboard and singing class, I started investing it in different rental places around my vicinity. So to solve the problem of travel. So everyone in the vicinity used to come to those locations close by to where they stay. So what I used to do was, I used to wear my shirt and go into gardens, go into the train stations and talk to random people, Brian. Like, I should meet people on the road and I should see them singing. I'm like, hey, you can sing really well. You should definitely join the singing class. It's right there. It's just 5 minutes away from you. And so I used to start getting more and more people. I got them in, I got them in, I got them in. And that is when, the company kind of started, but not really started. I was like, okay, this is good. There are now, it's like reached to around 10, 15 students coming in. We have more than 4 to 5 different teachers. And I was like, okay, this could go somewhere. But what changed, Brian, was a time when I was in a taxi and I had the keyboard in my hand. And in India, you don't earn that much being a taxi driver, right? I feel it's that way everywhere. So while I had the keyboard in my hand and I should deliver the keyboard to another, place my classes were going on at, the taxi driver looks at me, Brian, and tells me, wow, is that a keyboard in your hand? I really want to learn the keyboard. And I told him, fantastic. I mean, yeah, definitely you can. It costs around $24 per month. His happiness became so sad, Brian. He was like, oh, I can't afford it. I was like, okay, how much can you afford? He said, the most I can afford is just they said in dollars would be somewhere around $5 to $6. That's all I can afford per month. That's when it struck me. I was like, if I want to create something, I want to make a platform where even people like him can pursue their favorite hobbies. Because see, happiness is not only for the rich, not only for the people who can afford it, but it's for everyone. Right. And that is when we made the thing where, I called my co-founders and we told them, and all of the story, I think too long to tell it here, but we started it in McDonald's. We didn't have paper, pen, nothing. We asked the waiter to give a tissue paper, and right there, Gaurav and Charles, the co-founders, we sat and wrote the first code of what Hobby Tribe is today. And flash forward to what it is now. We have more than 60 different
Well,
people.
hang on. I want to
Yeah,
hold that. I want to hold that little bit of suspense. What I really like about just what you went through there is, rather than describing how you evolved and found and really came up with the product, you talked about the reasons why consumers say no to things, even if those things are fundamentally better for their lives. Really
correct.
interesting, right? So you would say, look, I'm not asking you to go to work here. I'm not asking you to be with somebody that you hate. I'm not asking you to have a responsibility on top of all of the terrible things that you have to do right now. I'm literally saying, I want you to be happier. And I
Right.
want you to be happier to pursue things that we both know have already proven to make you happy in the future. And you would imagine that there is an absolute automatic, yes, that's going to be something I'm going to want to do. But actually, that's not the case. People will default to no almost immediately. And by being able to capture the reasons why they default to no, you're able to capture the yes. And that's where I really love you go to. I really love that whole time, travel, and treasure. The fact that we will find, even if it's an illogical reason, we will find a time reason for something not to get done. It goes across the board, whatever it is. Go to the movies with somebody that you love. There's a time problem for something that you don't even love that much, but in your mind, that's a problem, right? The travel. Oh, have you seen the traffic at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? I can't possibly travel to this place. And even though, if you really measured up the two, the outcome from doing something that you absolutely adore for the hassle of the time, they don't even have to be equal. But if the time is there, it will stop you from being able to sell. And then the final piece, which is the treasure, which is the amount of money that it's actually going to cost to do it, even if it will benefit the consumer disproportionately. In their mind, they will always start off as it being too expensive. And I really like that we've started off the podcast on this, because at the end of the day, only one thing matters. As investors, all investors who are listening to this podcast right now, you're all thinking the same thing that I think every single time we make an investment. I hope that we don't lose our money on this investment in a company that we believe is going to provide us with a tremendous return. The only way that we can lose our money is if that company is not able to scale to the level they're going to scale to. And where Josh has begun right at the beginning is that place of saying, if we're not going to be able to scale, I need to deal with the problems why that scaling is being stopped right at the very principal part. Investors, men, women, boys and girls, everybody who's listening, this is the fundamental first lesson of investing in startups. You want to make sure that you find out all of the reasons why your consumer is going to say no, so that you can then make sure the company can scale to its actual max level. So I love that, Josh. So you came up with the idea. You're like, Hobby Tribe is the way. We're going to find a way that we can make sure that allowing for these three areas where people are most concerned about, that we can allow the entire world access to learn and enjoy the greatest hobbies that they ever had, right? Now, you spoke a little bit about the journey and about how you went and you brought in your co-founders and the people in the team and everybody else that was going to be a part of turning this Hobby Tribe into a reality. How did you come up with the money and the ability to build a platform? Talk to us about some of the more challenging parts. You know,
Right.
after you got me all happy with the sales piece, because that's everything for me, right? But then talk to us a little bit more about, you now had to build it and you had to provide a user experience that people were going to enjoy. How did you do that?
So the funny thing is, Brian, I had no idea about UI, what's UX, and all of that stuff. I had no idea about all of that, and I couldn't code. All I could do is have a vision and make it grow. So one of the first customers at Hobby Tribe was my co-founder's little brother, who was learning the keyboard from me.
Right.
And while playing the keyboard, I kept having this idea, this vision of Hobby Tribe. It could be something big. And every time I saw Gaurav, that is my co-founder, I was like, hey, bud, I have something I need to talk to you about, because I knew he was a techie. So I told him that, hey, I have this crazy idea. I don't know, how to code. So I don't know how to build a website, but I want to create some place where people can go to and see which is the closest class in their area. And Gaurav was like, yeah, I mean, I just came out of college, so it was a good project for me. I can do it. I was like, buddy, I have no money. So he's like, no, that's completely fine. Don't worry about it. You know what? We'll figure it out. It's all right. So I said, okay. He's like, but you know what? I have someone else who's even better than me at coding. I can get him on board. So I was like, dude, I have no money at all. So, getting anything, I have no money. He's like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Even he's pretty cool. So he gets him as well. And we go and start talking about Hobby Tribe. And, they just plan to do it just to get something in their resume that, hey, they've worked on something to get a job somewhere else. So much so that we started coding like late nights. We never slept. I mean, I couldn't sleep late nights. So I was off by 12. These guys were all the way to 6 a.m. in the morning, coding. And the best part about it is, without me even knowing, these people slowly started becoming co-founders. It was not something like, oh, I need co-founders. I didn't even know what the meaning was. It was just like, it was just like that, the relationship kept building up over time. And to a point where it became so robust, Brian, that anything idea that I had, within one day, it was executed. One day. Because see, it is like me who has the idea, Gaurav who knows the tech as well as my language, and Charles is only tech. So, I give him the idea, he converts everything to code, and then he and Charles builds up the entire platform. So in that way, we were able to achieve scales like no other, because we could code, we were learning, growing at the same time. And we started building this massive platform, which became super scalable. So that's why we didn't have to need any investment into the technology part, because everything was, in-house. But everything that I was earning while, taking the classes, I should take them to employ other people to be able to scale it more. But for the tech part of it, it was all, towards the co-founders. We just got the right ones, man. Actually, that's what I would say.
Wonderful. And what's great about what you're talking about
Yeah.
here, again, another really important part from an investor perspective is making sure that the company is skill gapped, right? And skill gapped means that normally, if we think about a large organization, any large organization, Nike, Walmart, anyone else, they have thousands of people across the organization, and all those people have got specific functions, because when you're running a large organization, you have all of these areas of expertise you need. You have to have developers who are developers, right? You have to have business development people who are business development people. You have to have logistics people that are
Right.
logistics people, and so on. But the problem with an early stage startup is that we have to go from very early stage where there's no money, no people, no skills, no anything, and we're trying to build it to be a unicorn, right? We're trying to build it to technically the same size as Nike, Walmart, everything else, within a 7 to a 10-year period. And if we're lucky, we can do a Brex and we can do it within a 5-year period. But we're
Correct.
trying to do the impossible. So what's really important is to make sure that those vital skill gaps at the beginning are filled as quickly as possible. And that's
Correct.
why it was so smart to have somebody in-house, somebody who understood you, somebody who worked really well, 2 people actually, to actually make sure that you guys could work seamlessly as one team executing one product. So, okay, you built it, you got the developers, you brought it out, you had it in market. You had already been working on the business development, which I love, by the way. You didn't wait for the creativity to finish to say, whoa, we should talk about. And you're like, no, screw this. I'm bringing this to market right now. So how did you do that? And then tell us about some of the learns that you have, because whenever you bring something to market, it's never straight line, right?
Correct.
It's always a jagged curve up
Correct.
and down as you start to understand your consumer. And what you're trying to do as you navigate both oceans is you're trying to, number one, make sure that you have the messaging right, which is very
Correct.
hard. And then number two, you're trying to make sure you have the customer right, the ideal
Correct.
customer profile. And that becomes this very conflictive, but also collaborative 2 problems which need to be solved to get you to that perfect lower cost to customer acquisition. So take us
Correct.
through that growth journey, the challenges you had, the things that went wrong, the things that you learned, and kind of where it took you to.
I mean, this is something interesting, Brian. So, like you said, before anything even began, I was selling, right? So I knew this, the best thing to start off is low hanging fruit with the network you have. So I just randomly talked to my teacher, and I told my school teacher, hey, all of your kids are probably bored at home in school. We have a platform where you can make your children pursue whatever hobby they want to learn. And Brian, we had no teachers. Like literally, the website was up, but we had only 3 teachers. We had no other thing. But still, I was like, anything you can think of, we have. So teachers were like, oh, that's fantastic. That's an amazing idea. Hey, you know what? I'll just roll it out to the entire school. I was like, okay. So they started out with the entire 10th standard. We suddenly got a list of 10 different hobby classes they wanted, ranging from Spanish, from Mandarin, from French, coding languages, singing, dancing, acting. And I was like, dang, in 2 days, where are we going to find these teachers from? But in that moment, that adrenaline rush, I connected with all the friends I had, who all I had. We got them on board. We got them teaching. It became one of the best selling things that ever happened in the school, Brian. And, they loved it so much that they were like, hey, you know what? We want to do it again. But what we did was, because the whole notion of online learning wasn't there at the start, because it was like, how can you ever learn guitar online? Right? That was always a perception. So all of my old students all left. They were like, you're mad, or I'm not going to come and learn online. I told them, don't even pay the full fees. You just pay $10. They're like, nope. So what I did here, I twisted a little bit. I told them, hey, don't pay me for the entire month. You pay me per week. So they were like, okay, that's fine. That's fair. I was like, if you like it, you continue for the next week. So they used to pay $5 per week. So $5 is what they used to pay. They loved it so much that it reached a point where they were like, hey, you know what? I don't want to pay per week anymore. Let's do it for an entire month. So I was like, wow, that's what I wanted it to be. Then we changed that weekly thing to a subscription model where they used to do it every month on month on month on month, where we realized, Brian, we were no longer in that 10th standard school. We expanded all across the globe. We went to Dubai. We started teaching in America. We started teaching, in India and Sri Lanka, all these places. And all of my teachers like, Josh, never in a million years I thought I would teach someone out of my city. I'm here sitting in India now teaching somebody in America. And that actually blew my mind to the possibility of what online learning could actually be like. We were one of the first people to start hobby learning online. So we called ourselves the hobby tech company, right? And the only reason it blew up so much was because in Dubai, normally these classes costed somewhere around 200 to 300 AED a month. We gave those classes at only 64 AED. That's it. And it sold like hotcakes. It went crazy viral in Dubai, and that is how we grew it into B2C. But as and when we kept growing, there's always ups and downs, ups and downs. There was one time where it went too good. We were getting so many orders, but then it reached the valley of death again. And that was when we were like, oh, what do we do now? And that's when we got a few investors who invested in. But being part of being a smart founder as well is not only to keep burning investor money all the time, right? Even though you just have it, you just have not use it. So we realized we were spending a lot on acquiring new customers when we were doing B2C, right? And we scaled it. We grew to more than 10,000 students all across the world. But we were like, we were spending way too much on our CAC on B2C. That is when we after consulting you guys, we like pivoted into B2B. And that is when it changed. We realized I was going back through memory lane and I was remembering again what the three main pillars of Hobby Tribe was: time, travel, and treasure.
Yeah.
Now, I realized corporates need us way more than we thought.
Way more
than we thought. And I'll tell you why. 70% of all the people taking classes with us gave a reason saying, we really want to learn, but there's no time. There's so much work. That's when it clicked. I was like, why not go to the source of the problem? So when we started going and approaching corporates, and we started telling them that, hey, instead of just doing yoga and fitness that, every employee, not everybody likes doing, because it's a one size fits all model and you have 5 different generations working in your company, wherein age group from 22 to 34 all want to pursue a hobby to, upskill themselves, while 35 to 69 want to reduce stress. So I went and told them that, hey, we are providing a solution where all of your employees get to pursue exactly what they want to learn, and they can connect with like-minded people around, which reduces their stress, makes them more productive, makes them more proactive, and less prone to mental stress, especially after COVID, Brian. Physical health is also there, but it's not at that peak. Mental health is the new thing. Everybody wants mental health right now. And hobby learning is scientifically proven to be the best case to solve mental health problems.
100%. And so that was very brilliant. And then so you started doing that, you raised investment, you had some money in there to be able to turn this from a hobby, a beginning, a genesis of an idea, something that you were doing with your friends, to something now which you're looking at turning it into a unicorn. So the whole move of going to corporates is about like, how do we scale this to a level where we can bring hundreds of employees on and have them doing a multitude of different classes. So talk to us about how that went. Who did you start approaching as corporates? What were they? So what size were those companies? What was their reaction? How did you onboard them? And then how does that move forward?
Right. So as we pivoted towards the B2B angle, that was the corporates, we realized, HRs had a huge problem. Now, see, from one point of view, we are solving employee engagement, correct? Where employees are getting engaged, right? But the biggest problems HR face is, number one, they do not know how to engage their employees. Number two, there are no tangible data metrics for them to understand exactly how they are liking the class. Because currently, all HRs do is once they finish the yoga class, 80% of my employees loved it. 20% said that it was okay. And there was a lot of manual work that they had to keep doing, which bogs them down. Because see, the number one problem HRs face right now is they are hired to be strategic hires into the company, to bring strategy within a corporate, right? But they are 86% of the time goes into administration and operations. That is understanding the grievances of their employees, etc., etc. Now, what we do within corporates is we exactly give HRs on a personal level exactly how their employees are feeling. We are giving them metrics which help them understand their mental health, their happiness index, and stress levels, all on a personal level. Imagine if you're a small company of just 10 employees, you know all of your employees very well, right? But if you're having a big organization, how is an HR going to know each and everything about your small, about a person in person? That's where we come in. We give HRs a bird's eye view to exactly understand which employees actually need their help, which employees are happy, which are satisfied, which are less on stress and have better mental health. And in doing this, it what is that? It not only helps them get to know them better, but they have constructive what is that? I'm not getting the word.
No, it's powerful. I understand. I
How to
understand it.
use
Like,
their time.
they're able to interact with their employees in a meaningful way, and
Correct.
up until this point they're not really. They're able to say, how do you feel, what are you doing, but people don't know. And what you're doing is you're allowing people to really touch their creative side. You're allowing them to touch, and I would even go deeper than that. I think it's even more important for employers. Like, employers are able to find out what their employees are thinking in a number of different ways. That's not their challenge. Their challenge is most people are miserable. Like,
Correct.
there's
That too. That
hardly
too.
there's hardly anybody who, as they're dying and they're lying on their deathbed, they look up and in their final breath they say, I just wish I had worked a little bit harder. Right?
Yeah.
It's not a thing. Okay. So what you're doing is you're allowing employers to take something that they know. It's like this really uncomfortable marriage, right? They know that their employee has to be there, right?
Correct.
But their employer knows that the employee knows that they hate being there, right?
Right.
So it's like, it's wrong. So the employer needs to not understand the employee better. The employer needs to help the employee mitigate against the 8 hours of not wanting to be there by providing enjoyment that makes them look forward to the overall experience because of what that hour gives them. That's what's
Correct.
so tremendously powerful about what you're doing. And then, so talk to us about, go on. I'm sorry, Josh, go on.
Yeah, if I may add another huge value add we're providing, that it just slipped my mind, but it's super, super important. The future of corporate is all hybrid, correct?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It is hybrid workplace. Now, the problem with that is, again, HRs find it very difficult to engage their employees who are working hybrid because they don't have defined hours, which is why a lot of employees are mentally stressed even more, because before, when they were in office, it started from 9 in the morning, ended at 5. But now when it's at home, they have to work the whole time. That there's no definitive thing to end. So what we're doing is, when we're working with corporates, we tell the corporate, you give your employee 1 hour out of the entire week where they pursue what they love. So even when they are at home and they're getting all the work, they also get to pursue something that they love doing.
Nice.
So,
Beautiful.
that is something that's going to change a lot with the future of corporate wellness being hybrid and being remote working.
And people will work harder, like,
Exactly.
especially if as a corporate you're not cheap. And cheap means that you say you need to do it at 6 o'clock in the evening or 7 o'clock in the evening. It's like, don't do that. Take a
During
lunch
work
hour.
hours.
Take one
Right.
o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Allow them to have a break. What will then happen is they will appreciate you as an employer. They won't leave
Exactly.
you after the 18 months, which is the average of when people are leaving their employers right now,
Correct.
because there's no loyalty left in the market, because employers, you've given them no reason to have any loyalty anymore. And then
Correct.
if you show them and give them that 1 hour that they can say, man, I'm looking forward to go to work today. It's a Tuesday and I'm going to be a better guitar player by the end of it. This is great. And what will happen is then at 6 in the evening, they won't mind doing the extra hours work because you didn't mind focusing your effort on helping them become a little bit happier in the
Correct.
60% of time of their lives that they're spending with you. So it's huge, Josh. So talk to us. I want to get to the unit metrics. I want to talk a little
Mm-hmm.
bit about acquiring the customers, bringing in the
Right.
corporate, some of the things that you've learned. I know, understand that the B2B side of it is relatively new, but I'd love to get my head around what's happening with them, what they're saying, how are you outreaching, who are you outreaching to? You know, is it the chief happiness officer? What are those unit economics looking like? And then how you see that going forward to help you build this unicorn that is doing revenue of millions of dollars a month. But before I get there, I haven't quite got enough blood yet in the pain that you had in building this company, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all see it sounded like it was fantastic building it with your co-founders. It sounds like you built a great platform. I know you built a great platform because we invested in it. And it sounds like with minimal difficulty, you managed to build this network of teachers, but that ain't the way it goes down.
Yeah.
So
It just
share
program
with
the
me the
mind to like,
pain.
yeah, just
I
program
want the
the.
tears.
Oh man, dude, there were times where I literally was crying in my room. There were times where I didn't get sleep because, at some point of time, we didn't have money and we didn't have, students coming in, and we just had few more days of runway left. And I was sitting all night at my drawing board, drawing out different things. I'm telling you, there was a time when uh, suddenly when we had this big deal with this teacher, I mean with this school, and the teacher last moment decided not to teach, okay, in that one moment. And I was shocked because in the morning I just get up and I'm like, what is happening? You can't just do that. We just got into the school curriculum. But then he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't, I'm leaving. And in the moment I'm like, and it's French, okay, it's French. I've not done French in God knows how long. Taking doing all of that, I get up in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, okay, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Brian, I literally took the French class. I was like, nothing doing. I'm not letting this class go. I'm doing it. I took YouTube at the side. YouTube was having here, and I'm literally reading whatever she's talking about, and I'm giving the class there.
Bonjour.
That was it was scary, Brian, because the first time I'm
Brutal.
talking to a school, and it was this. But then the thing came in because being young founders, being 21, 22, and having the pressure of having so many people under you, and if you don't do well, so many other families are going to get hampered because of you. And like I said, it reached a point where we didn't have money, and I was literally like with Gaurav and Charge, we were holding hands and we were like, dude, we were almost trying to share each other's, what's happening, what do you think, what should we do? We were all crying, not crying literally because we were on the verge. We didn't know, what's happening.
Yeah.
But by God's grace, suddenly that day, an investor called up from Germany and said, hey, I've been following Hobby Type from a long time. I really want to invest. And then he invests, and then things went good for a few more months after that. But a fair share of trials and tribulations in terms of dealings we made with corporates. We didn't go as per plan, and how we had to change our outlook on it, because before we used to do everything with slabs, right? We used to tell them that hey, you pay per employee, and that's how you do it. And they were like, yeah, sure, it sounds good. They promised us so many employees, but very few employees came up, and we had to pay teachers more than we thought we should pay, because we've already told them, hey, you know what, you come and join us, we'll pay you so much for so many students, because we calculated that way. It was a big learning curve for us, which is why now we're making it so much more flexible for corporates, which they love, because right now we charge them only per hour. So you don't have to pay per employee anymore, right? So their hassle and worry of overpaying and not exactly knowing how much they have to pay for is gone. So they just pay for per hour, where we keep a cap of 40 employees in the class, and they pay per hour, like it's just around um, hold on.
Yeah.
It's just around $33 that they pay per hour.
Yeah.
And classes go on as usual, so it becomes much more flexible, much more user friendly for them.
And this is, by the way, the hard part. Like, there's two really important points that you've brought up here. which really speak to the resilience of being an early stage startup founder. That first piece about doing the class yourself, you know, there's not many people that would be prepared to do that because it's terrifying. You know, if I have to
Right.
speak about public speaking, I'm okay with that because I've learned enough to muddle my way through a class. But if I have to teach Spanish, more difficult, right? Or Hindi,
Right.
right? More difficult, right? Or the guitar, more difficult because there are people there that have expectations, right? So the
Correct.
bravery that's required, look, everybody wants the unicorn life. The I just sold my company for $1 billion, but nobody is prepared to do what it takes in the founder life. And
Correct.
this is the founder life. And you got to do what it takes in the founder life to even have a shot at the unicorn life. And that's
Correct.
why so few people break through. But that preparedness to do what you need to do to achieve what is required and necessary. Because if you don't, you die. There is no, we
Absolutely.
learned from that. That was really good. We must do that again sometime. You're dead. You just lost that school. You lost that teacher. You lost the confidence of your team. You're so weak right now. You're like a 3-week-old baby. You cannot afford to lose. You have to win every single day until you have the strength of an 18-year-old boy or girl. Like that's it. So that
Correct.
resilience that you brought up is incredibly important. And I would say it for investors that are listening, success leaves clues. Never invest in unlucky people who lack success because you tend
Right.
to find there's a consistent all the way through. And that may sound very cruel of me to say, because of course people can change and of course people can evolve. But do you want to bet your money that in this one particular case, you're going to make it happen? You always bet on the people who are prepared to do whatever it takes. And they don't tell you about it, they demonstrate it in what they've done before. Success leaves clues, and resilience is everything. The second point that you brought up that I really like is about the evolution of a company. And that's that any founder who says they found product fit within the first 6 months to a year is lying to themselves, not to you, right? Because people don't lie about that. They're lying to themselves. There's no way product fit gets hit anytime before Series A. And that's a 2 to a 3 year journey. Why is that? It's because it's arrogance to believe that you can take something from being nothing to being Nike. Nike today, not yesterday. Walmart today, not after a year or 2 years. Walmart after they've learned the SKUs that they need to have, the margins they make from their products, the customers' behaviors, and what they're prepared to pay at what time in the day, depending on where they've traveled to and from. That is when product fit gets hit. And that journey from the very beginning, when the genesis of the idea is there and the first customers get tried out and tested, to today's Walmart, that is development of product fit. And again, what I really like about what you're talking about is the open-mindedness to make sure that you're continually evolving and moving forward to get the very best product fit that you can pull together. Okay, that was enough pain. Honestly, that was enough pain. I
There
felt
was
you.
one more. There
Go
was
on,
one more very
give,
bad one.
give us one more. Come on.
The backstabbing that happens when you trust somebody so deeply within the company,
Right.
and then he was actually like a brother to me. He was like someone who I knew from school, and it was I trusted that guy so much with everything in it, and he just leaves and starts something similar to what we're doing. It didn't work out, obviously,
Yeah.
but yeah, it really closed me to being trusting people that often, and it really scarred me for a long time, but it only made me stronger. It really,
It
it
makes you
built me up
stronger.
to,
It's
yeah,
required.
definitely.
It's required.
Yeah.
You sometimes see in these tribes how they go through initiation where you go
Right.
from girl to woman, boy to man, and it looks initially cruel what happens with the children, but it makes them strong enough that that later part in life they're prepared for what comes. In early
Correct.
stage startup, it's the same. The cruelty that comes when there are billions of dollars at stake is ridiculous. And they're also the arrogance of people to feel that they can take you down. And the thing, Josh, is it's happened to me, it's happened to other founders, it's happened to investors. It is part of this evolution. But you know what it's a really good sign of? you're doing something right.
Correct.
Right? You're on the right path. Nobody tries to take down a loser. They're only taking down people that they believe have got something that they want or deserve or need themselves. So you're on the right path. You're building great. Okay, here's where we finish up. All of the investors listening today are saying to themselves, okay, I get it. Josh, strong founder, gone through a lot of stuff, knows his stuff. Good team that he's built around him. They know what they're doing. They built the tech. Great resources and logistics in place. He's now managing dozens and dozens and dozens of classes every single week. It's no longer one class of French. This is now dozens of classes, hundreds every single month that are actually going out to general public. We know that he's moving towards B2B, which is more favorable to investors as well, but there'll still be an element of B2C, business to consumer, that's built into that as well. Now, talk to us about the unicorn journey going forward. And we don't need to know the valuation, but what we do need to know is how much you're raising. And we also need to know is how do you see the revenue growing in 2022? How do you see the revenue growing in 2023? And how do you see that growing in 2024 so that investors that are looking to invest in today, they can see what's going to happen with their value of their investment?
Fantastic. So, what we're doing is, Brian, the moment we shifted to B2B, within the start of this year, we already saw 6x growth in revenue already. And that is something amazing because, the whole hobby, the market for wellness around the world has just shot up, where it was just $10,000. $100,000 was the budget for corporates. Now it's reached to $10 million per corporate for their wellness programs. And so we are on track to already hitting probably $100,000 by the end of this year. And with a few strategic investors who are looking to invest, those who have good corporate connections here in India. With that, in the next year, we are looking to expand to Dubai as well, Dubai and Singapore. And that is where, because they are more favorable with Indians teaching them, which skyrockets our profit margins as well. Currently, shifting to B2B, our profit margins from 30% has skyrocketed to 62% profit margins. And so when we go to Dubai, it increases more to somewhere close to 75% as well to the profit margin in Dubai.
And where do you see the revenue being in 2023?
Yeah. So when we reach 2023, we are gunning for a $1 million revenue when we're doing it with Dubai and Singapore. When those things go well, by the end of 2023 to start mid of 2024, we're looking for a $10 million revenue, because in Dubai and Singapore, the conversion rate between here and India is too high, right? So that makes it getting
so
easier.
You're looking wonderful. So you're looking at really 10x over the next 2 years for each year going forward. Okay, so that's great
100%.
Great for investors to say, here's where I'd like to finish. Now, first of all, we need to make sure everybody gets your contact details. And then after that, I want you to speak to the legacy that you're creating within this company. So it's 10 years in the future. You're looking back. You're being interviewed on CNN, and you've got one of the top interviewers there. And that interviewer is saying to you, tell me, Josh, tell me, what did you achieve with Hobby Tribe over the last 10 years? So let's get your email details first, so we can make sure everybody's got your contact information, and then finish us up with the legacy of what Hobby Tribe will mean to the world. What did you create?
Fantastic. But before that, can I say the one last thing where we feel we're going to be a $1 billion company? Now, we are just starting with India, then Dubai and Singapore. But as we expand, when we get into America after raising a Series B round in America and Europe, when we're going to hire teachers there as well. To answer your question, what impact we're going to create in the world, Brian, we are going to make a whole new career path for thousands, if not millions of people who always wanted to make a career doing what they love, being a singer, dancer, actor, musician. It's no longer going to be frowned upon. We are going to be that one company, like how everyone goes to Google, for the IT, they go like, oh, I want to be in Google. Every musician, singer, dancer, actor, whatever your hobbies, there'd be the one thing after college, they'd be like, what my vision is, I want to get a job at Hobby Tribe, because we're going to be a global company teaching, things to everybody all around the world for all age groups. And not only that, At the same time, we'll be the reason for global happiness. And that is why our tagline screams out, happiness restored is our promise. Every corporate all around the world is going to have such an amazing culture where it's just going to be happiness all around, and it's going to be because of Hobby Tribe. So, that is what it is going to be about.
I love it. That's incredible. Happiness restored. It is something that everybody should live every single day, and all too often they don't. How can people contact you, Josh?
Yeah, so you can reach me out at Joshua, 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 @thehobbytribe.com. And that's it.
And your URL and your website is there as well. Joshua, yes. It is a pleasure. It is always a pleasure. We couldn't be happier that we've invested in you. We love what you're building for the world. I love watching you go on the journey that you're on right now, which is a pure sales and business development journey, because you already have the product which is there. We're going to be with you all the way, and appreciate you trusting us to put our money in your company.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's just amazing. I mean, learning so much from you guys. Thank you so much.
You got it, buddy. That's a wrap.